Good afternoon, and welcome to the third Outcome Area Working Group meeting for digital literacy and inclusion. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Today's meeting is being recorded, and we'll be posting the recording of this meeting, the slides and transcripts to the Broadband for All portal. Please note, we have ASL interpreters who are pinned and available. And if you need to be able to see them, please in the top right in the view toolbar of Zoom, choose gallery. Additionally, closed captioning is available for those who'd like to have closed captioning on. Chat is open, and we would love to start with you to write your name, where you're from as a hello, and thank you for joining. And finally, we'll be using the reactions toolbar at the bottom for hand raising later on during a community discussion. So if you notice on the bottom, thank you for the next slide. You can see that little smiley face. If you click that, there's a raise your hand feature. Next slide. Here's today's agenda. We will start with an opening panel of experts in the digital literacy and inclusion field who will speak about the unique barriers faced by the covered populations they serve, what their organizations are doing to address these barriers, and what solutions they have seen as effective. We'll then have an interactive discussion about the lived experiences of those impacted by the digital divide. And before we get to the panelists, we're going to spend some time reviewing important takeaways and lessons from our February and March Outcome Area Working Group meetings. Next slide. So really, in the last few digital equity meetings in February, we had a really big conversation about kind of the intersection of all covered populations and the barriers of infrastructure. Really, where is that middle mile, the last mile? How do we get everyone connected? And the lack of reliable broadband, its affordability and its accessibility. And really, a big one is the lack of awareness of ACP, which is the Affordable Connectivity Program, and the benefits of those for certain prices of broadband speeds and working with ISPs and the government mistrust. We'll also have targeted outreach with trusted messengers and how we can talk about language and awareness barriers. And finally, talk about capacity funding being flexible and directed towards historically marginalized organizations. So after we complete the state digital equity plan, when we unlock all this capacity funds from the federal government, again, making sure it's flexible and we can move the money appropriately. Next slide. So now, excuse me, this is one more slide. And please go to the next slide. And so now I'd like to open it up to the panelists and introduce our first speaker, Chris Berger from the Technology Program Manager at the EAH Housing. Chris?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you, Chris.
What's up? So thank you for putting this together, and thank you for having us today. I'm Chris Berger. I'm the Technology Program Manager with EAH Housing. We have over 230 properties between California and Hawaii, and we've been actively working with the CASF grants through the CPUC since about 2017. That first round in 2018 to 2020, we graduated about 1,300 students, 1,300 resident students. And all those individuals got devices, whether it was a Windows laptop or an Android tablet. So the marker was that they get about 8 hours or more of digital literacy training. And then with the current grant, we got more grant funding between 2020 and 2022. And we're up to about 500 graduates in that. We have another grant, another 10 that we did this year. And so concurrently, we have about, I'd say 30, let's say 18, 21, 31 sites going on concurrently with digital literacy. And so speaking to some of the successes that we've been able to do it, first of all, with the great assistance and help of the CPUC through that grant funding, we've also made a lot of different partnerships. And I think that's one of the most important things. I always talk about the network, right? What's the most important network? The human network. Get out there, talk to folks, mix it up, go meet people like minds, discuss best practices, what's working, what's not, what vendors are to be used, different ISPs in the area, sharing even resources. Right now, as affordable housing, we have a partnership with another affordable housing, Eden Housing, where we're sharing some of our resources, right? We're inviting them to join some of our remote learning classes, some of their residents, and then we're invited our residents to join their remote viewing classes. And so it really helps out quite a bit. Let's speak to some of the challenges. For affordable housing or any entity dealing with funding, during COVID, we got our funding cut in half, right? Because a lot of that money had to go to the school districts for COVID. And so how do you do more with less? Well, the necessity, the mother of invention, right? And so we did a lot of remote, but then again, how do you teach someone that's a first time user to get on Zoom or get on Google Meet or get on FaceTime or get on, any of these applications in order to learn? And so there's a lot of one-on-one. There's a lot of working overtime. There's a lot of, you have to be in front of the person, and then you have to develop digital navigators, right? And so what we would do is identify those people on site, residents that were usually involved with a lot of the community events. You teach them, and now they could teach the rest. And then each neighbor is going to teach somebody. And so that's really what you're looking for, is to get people excited to say, hey, you know what? The pandemic showed us that whether you wanted to be in technology or not, you didn't have a choice. You wanted to talk to your doctor, you had to do telehealth. You want to go to the bank, you couldn't. You had to go online. So, I remember a long time ago learning that you didn't go to college to learn, you go to college to learn how to learn, right? And so what I try to do is develop independent, active digital users, right? And so in doing that, they're going to know that the next lesson is to teach their neighbor. So financial, lack of finances, that was one challenge. Another challenge would be infrastructure, having a lack of maybe ISPs to choose from, the footprint or the existent wiring within the property. And so a lot of times you're educating the user on how to activate their phone into a hotspot, right? Sometimes we have these things, we just don't know that we already have it, that they exist in our current technology, and B, know how to access it. And then providing resources, right? Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which became the Affordable Connectivity Program, holding workshops, putting out flyers, right? Showing people, hey, you can keep it simple, just call this number. And the FCC broadband map was incredibly helpful, where you could just go on, list the address, and then all the ISPs with their speeds would pop up once you put in that address, so you know who to choose from. And so all in all, it's been a beautiful experience. I think that in terms of working with vendors, I could rattle off a couple. We have Shooting Stars, which does our youth STEM camps for our youth. YWCA of Marin, which has been job skills for seniors over 50, and digital literacy. Oakland Tech Exchange, which has been vendor for devices, also our partner with the San Jose Digital Inclusion Program. Education Superhighway, love them, for infrastructure. Urban Equity Group for curriculum and devices. Eden Housing, our partner in digital literacy. Affinity Base, also curriculum and instruction. Community Tech Network, also curriculum and education. Human IT, what's up, AJ? I see you here. So they're going to be addressing our SoCal portfolio. And one of our first partners was LearnerWeb, which was curriculum. And so I would say A, in person, B, a self-paced online learning management system like Moodle or something that LearnerWeb created, which wasn't Moodle. And then C, I would say remote instruction and support. And then also the small group one-on-one, and larger group classes. I would say when you talk about the three legs of the digital, in closing, I would say talking about the three legs of the digital literacy, computing devices, internet access, and digital literacy education, I always like to talk about the seat, right? The seat would be continued tech support and updates. And to me, that's one of the most important things. We know this because anybody that has a Windows machine knows every Tuesday you're gonna have to deal with it. And think about our residents that don't have that strong infrastructure of internet access trying to update through Wi-Fi. So you have to answer their calls. You have to do quarterly visits, if not more, to continue them on their way. Because once someone gets frustrated that's a new user, they're liable just to say, no, no thanks. But it's been an incredible experience, and we'll be doing it for a long, long time. I encourage everybody to network with each other, and I'm available to network. Just reach out anytime. And thanks for having us today.
No, Chris, thank you for joining. And honestly, there's two things that really stood out for me of what you shared among all of the great things you shared, mind you. But this idea of a peer-to-peer or neighbor to neighbor digital navigation program. Because I mean, the frame that I always come at it, looking at it, is that we need to train some sort of staff of an organization or some community-based organization. And while that is part of the solution, I love the idea of a peer-to-peer or a neighbor-to-neighbor digital navigation approach too. So that's really interesting point, something really interesting to pursue. And then also, what strikes me is you listed off quite a few partners, and it strikes me when you list it like that, where this is digital equity, digital literacy, and adoption. It is it takes a village type of thing, right?
Yes.
Like that
Yes.
is a lot of partnerships. That's a lot of collaboration, and sharing resources and expertise. So thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. And
Just last part, I would
yeah, go
say
ahead.
at the beginning, not so much after COVID, at the beginning, to be awarded your device, right, after 8 hours of instruction, we also asked that people would volunteer their time. And so that helped when they would tell a neighbor, hey, go ahead and volunteer your time, either doing outreach or doing digital navigator instruction or something like that. And so really what we're trying to do as affordable housing folks is build community, right? So it's not about here, you'll get a free tablet if you do it 8 hours, any of these three ways. It's like, how do we build community? Because now we're sharing wealth resources, health resources, any resources. I always talk about the river in Spanish, rios, right? Resources, information, opportunity, and services. So that's what we like to spread.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for your time. Love to keep the conversation going, but now we're going to pass the mic over to Cami Griffiths, who's the executive director and co-founder of Community Tech Network. Excuse me.
CTN for short, easy to remember.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, and it was great to get a call out from Chris. Thank you. We love all of our partners with the CPUC funded program. So our mission is to transform lives through digital equity. We've been doing this work for 15 years. So back in 2008, when there was still this idea that there wasn't a digital divide, even though we knew there was, we started this work to really support partners on the ground who are most connected to the people in need. And it's been a struggle, I got to say, because there was not a lot of funding out there previously. And so what we're seeing now is both because of COVID, it's clear to policymakers, to funders, that this is a need that we need to meet, and they're backing it up with funding. So we're really in a good position now. Our biggest contract that we've had for the longest time, since 2010, is with the City and County of San Francisco, working on their SF Connected program. And I'll talk a little bit about the different work we do through these different partners, but I wanted to highlight our partners out there. Through the CPUC and their funding, we've had 50 partners across the state of California. Because of COVID, we launched a program called Home Connect, where we procured devices, configured them, shipped them out to learners, and then delivered that virtual training, which, as Chris noted, it's very challenging. If someone has a device for the first time and they've never tapped or swiped, they don't really understand and it can be very challenging. So not an easy program to run, but very rewarding. We connected over 1,000 people since the beginning of COVID with tablets and serving folks who speak 7 different languages. We were also hired by CDA to train for their chat program. So 500 older adults were trained on iPads remotely through our trainers. And lastly, 2 really big, amazing programs we've been able to manage through the Access to Technology program through the state of California. San Mateo and Sonoma have hired us to help them manage those grants. And it brings all of the good things to play. So we're helping partners on the ground with curriculum and training trainers. We're also supplementing that with Home Connect. So for the harder to reach individuals, monolingual seniors, we're shipping the devices and providing remote training. And then we're helping to roll out ACP enrollment events and supporting the community. So we are, just like Chris said, you said it so well, Chris, thank you for that. We're building community, not just at the local housing development level, but at the wider nonprofit ecosystem level. So we're really in a good position to help more people, the service providers, as well as their clients. So if we talk about the challenges that clients face or learners face, you've heard all this before. I'll say it again and say some of the things that we're doing to meet the need. So people aren't sure about ACP, how to sign up. They don't want to be upsold. You know, they're afraid. Maybe their language skills, they can't understand what's being said. What we've done in partnership with our partners on the ground in mostly the Bay, San Francisco, but we've done it elsewhere, is to host those ACP enrollment events, having someone who speaks the language help that person on the phone through the or online and get them through that process. And we're partnering also with the SF Tech Council and providing our staff to help out with the different language needs that are needed. I think just to recognize how diverse the diversity of the language needs are, and meeting people where they're at with their language needs is just critical. As for devices, it's a one-time purchase. Granted, the device will need to be replaced at some point, but getting folks those devices in the first place. CPUC funded projects are paying for devices. That's amazing. There are thousands of devices being distributed through the California Department of Aging. And so what we've been doing is, through our partnership with SF Connected, Access to Technology, we've had funding to purchase and ship out devices. We've worked with a vendor, KBS Mobility, where they procure the devices, set them up, which is time consuming and can often go wrong. They've got the equipment to just do it. The really awesome thing is setting those up in the language that the learner needs. So they ship those tablets, the booklet out to the learner gets it, and everything's in their language, the training material and the device itself. So KBS has been a really amazing partner for that. And as mentioned a few times, and I'll say it again, that the language has to be, we have to serve the learners in the language that they're most comfortable in and make it clear that it's available. We've had some people say, they'll say, oh, I'll take English, not realizing that we'll offer the class in Spanish. If they know we'll offer it in Spanish, they're like, yes, that would be great. It'll just be easier for them to retain the information. And Chris mentioned this as well. They say 3 legs of the stool, and he's saying the seat. That's cool. I say 4 legs of the stool, 4th being the tech support. And it's not just tech support, like my thing's broken, but also just, I have this question. What do I do now? And it may not be a technical problem. It really just, you're not sure if I should open this email or where did the button go? And so having some way for folks to come back and ask questions. So we've been solving that problem by offering, we call them digital coaches. They're volunteers that we background check and train, and we pair them one-to-one with our learners who've gone through our Home Connect program. We also do that same sort of, we also offer that same support on site at our SF Connected locations. That was a project that we've done prior to COVID, and we're continuing to do it now. As soon as those labs open up, we can get volunteers to help out. We're also doing things called Q&A sessions, which I recognize in other languages, it might not make any sense, but it's an opportunity for folks with a specific language to log in to a Zoom room and just ask questions. Some people don't ask questions, they're shy. They may just listen in and learn from the other folks and the questions that they ask. So those are some of the challenges and the ways, the challenges that we've seen and the ways that we're addressing it. They also asked that I talk about some of our newer existing programs that should be offered. I wanted to echo what Chris said about training trainers and also this peer-to-peer training. This work could simply not be done by the agencies on this call, or even 10 times the number of agencies. It's a village, and the village needs to be trained. So recognizing that if you're closest to the learner and you have a good rapport with them and you're patient, but you're not sure, like, well, I don't have curriculum or not quite sure how to explain this. What we've developed is a program specifically for training trainers, and we've made it available on a learning management system. So we call it Digital Lift, and we're offering it to some of our partners already, and we're trying to roll it out more robustly. But at the end of the day, we want more digital navigators to be trained. We want more people out in the community to understand adult learning and what it takes for an older adult to get over their fear and anxiety around being too old or feeling like they're, they just can't get it, and encourage them and coach them to take on this new task. And what we see is people, their lives are changed. And that's why we are just so motivated to do this work and help other trainers do this work and get that same gratification. So really focusing in on supporting the agencies who are on the ground doing the work, training their staff and volunteers, and then the digital navigators who are in the community with lived experience, training them and supporting them, creating jobs for these digital navigators. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to employ people in the community and for them to be the ambassadors of their community and encouraging folks to get online. And lastly, I'm going to put into the chat a link to a document that we put together of our different training models that we've done over the years. And we encourage people to steal our ideas. Please take them, be successful, and absolutely contact me if you have any questions. Thanks for this opportunity.
No, thank you, Cami. And I think you shared a lot of great information, ideas. And one of the things I wanted to acknowledge is there are a lot of organizations like yours in the digital literacy and inclusion space working on pretty tight budgets. And I think one of the things I heard you say, and I think is really important to also acknowledge, is that a big financial burden and a big financial cost is that groundwork, right? Which is those that are closest, those trusted messengers that have the trust of residents and community members over the government, and kind of and sharing information about ACP and low cost programs. That's where the heavy lifting is, and that's where the most of the assistance is needed, right? And to, like you said, building a digital navigation program is not a simple one. And so I'm really excited that you shared, not just in the chat about your Digital Lift program, but now I'm probably going to be looking at your Digital Lift program. And I echo what you're saying about don't reinvent the wheel, right? My previous life, I was an economic development director in a rural county, and capacity, that is all we do, and it works. And don't reinvent the wheel. So I love that, and thank you for sharing. And again, you just said 50 partners. I want to say it again. This is not a solo project. This is a village. And so I really appreciate all you're doing and all you're sharing. And I think one of the things that eventually we'll want to bring back up with you, Cami, at some point, and we can't do it now because we're going to move on, but is the work that you're doing with the Department of Aging. Maybe we can string that into some of the conversations in the next few questions when we start talking about barriers in the community. So thank you again, Cami. And so next, I'd like to invite up AJ Middleton, who's the Senior Vice President in Programs at Human IT. AJ?
Awesome. Thank you, Cole. Hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is AJ Middleton. I am the Senior Vice President of Programs at Human IT. So we are a nonprofit nonprofit founded in 2012 out of Los Angeles with a focus to bridge the digital divide. We, since our founding, have really done that in a couple different ways. On one side of our organization, we take in technology from corporations and companies across the country that they no longer need. We bring that into our location, and then we have the desire to wipe, refurbish, and then redistribute those devices out into the community, either for free at a very low cost. We provide, all new operating systems for them, ensure that they are fully cleaned up, and ensure that the individual themselves can access those through a variety of different methods. Quickly, what we realized in our history is that just giving someone a computer really isn't enough to solve all of those problems. You have to pair that with other resources that other organizations that you just heard of just talked about. Those include access to free or low-cost internet, digital literacy training to ensure that they have the skills and the understanding how to use that tool. And then what was mentioned a couple of times is that technical support when things go wrong, because it tends to go wrong on technology for everyone. What does an individual that question when they have that problem? Who did they go to ensure that that problem gets resolved and they have a working device? Human IT, we provide all four of those, what we call digital navigation services in the house. We want to ensure that individuals can access those free or low-cost devices in a variety of different methods. We work with partners across the country and also in California to provide free devices whenever possible, whether that's in combination with a grant, in combination with a local partner that's giving away devices, school districts, anything like that. We provide devices in support of other programs like that. And then for any scenario where an individual can't participate in any of these free device programs, we want to have an option available where they can purchase a computer at a very low cost. So we have an online technology store that has computers for as low as $100 and going up depending on what that individual's needs are. All of those devices are available to any individual who would need them, and we would ship them directly to their door, fully refurbished or brand new, depending on the exact device that they pick, with the needed software that they need for their individual, whatever that individual would need. We also want to pair that with, as I mentioned, access to low-cost internet. For about 6 years at this point, we've been providing households assistance in navigating what all of their different internet options are. So that includes a one-on-one conversation with an individual to understand what it is that they need, what it is that their specific situation is from an internet perspective. Do they have multiple people in the household that need to get on at the same time? Is it just them? Do they need to be mobile? Whatever those specific options are, and we'll help them understand what's available in their specific area, whether that's an offer like Frontier or Spectrum or AT&T or Comcast, or if it's a mobile hotspot. And then we'll actually give them the one-on-one assistance in actually applying and receiving that said service. When the Affordable Connectivity Program came out, we added that into that assistance as well, so we can help individuals navigate what the Affordable Connectivity Program, understand how it is that they apply, what the benefit is, answer any questions like that, and actually ensure that benefit to their said internet provider to ensure that they're getting that $30 off, and it's an affordable offer for them. We provide that, as I mentioned, that one-on-one assistance to kind of help them navigate through that process. Digital skills training, we ourselves provide what we call pre-beginner training. It's an online-based courseware similar to what Chris had mentioned earlier, where we help people understand really the computer basics. This may be an individual's first computer, so what a computer is, how to use a mouse and a keyboard, basics, really that beginning skills to actually ensure that this is a tool when they receive it that they feel comfortable exploring and using for whatever it is that they want to accomplish. And then from there, if they want to move on to any courseware that's more advanced at that, we would help them connect to a courseware that would make the most sense, whether it goes into things like coding or more advanced skilling in a specific area. We can help connect them to resources like that. The last one around technical support. Technical support, we have a team that is available to answer any questions as simple as, how do I download this file to this specific key on my keyboard's not working? We can help navigate those options, troubleshoot as much remotely as possible. And if needed, if it's a hardware support, we can actually take that device back in hand, see what we can do to fix, replace, or refurbish that for them to ensure that they have a working device. A big portion of this conversation was around, individuals and problems that people face in connecting to resources like this. In my mind, I really see the kind of the problems in two different areas. One, individuals need to understand what's available to them, awareness factor of, how do I know what's available around me? How do I know that a great program like EAH Housing's digital literacy or human IT support, how do we know where that exists? And then once that individual is made aware, either through partnerships or through general marketing practices or however it is, and they get in touch with an organization like us, all of those individuals, there is no one size fits all is kind of the best thing for them. Each individual situation is a little bit different. Each individual's needs are a little bit different. So we at Human IT, we have launched our digital navigator program as of earlier this year. And we really took a focus on understanding what that individual wants to accomplish. What is their goal that they want? Are they trying to, attain employment? Are they trying to go to school? Are they trying just to communicate with family members? And really from there, identifying what they need in order to accomplish that said goal. So we have a one-on-one sit down with an individual where we'll, like I said, understand what it is their goal. The individual wants to apply for school. Okay, what is it that they need? What gaps do they have to actually attain applying for school? Do they need a device? Do they need internet connection? Do they need the digital skills? Do they need just one of those? And we can really identify what it is that they need, help guide them through that process. If it's something that we would provide in-house, great, we can support them one-on-one in getting that, as I just mentioned there. If they need to be connected to a service that we don't provide, we will ensure that we are getting them to that point where they're successful with that partner that we've kind of vetted and we trust and ensure that they're actually going to have that end result that they want. And then from there, on a long-term perspective, we want to understand, did they actually accomplish that goal? Did they actually apply and attend school? And if so, at that point, do they have a different goal? Do they have different needs now based that they've reached that? Does their device need change? Do they need faster internet? Do they have different skills that they need to attain? Did they have problems that they needed technical support for? We're trying to build an ecosystem to where an individual can get that individualized support to accomplish whatever it is that they want. And we're really looking at our success in that matter of did that individual accomplish what they want, opposed to how many computers were distributed out, how many people were connected. All that information is great, but we want to look one layer deeper to ensure that that is actually being supportive of the individuals we're supporting and accomplishing whatever it is they want to use this technology to do. So those are kind of the big two things that Human IT is focusing on, ensuring that we're able to partner with organizations across the state to ensure that people are aware of the services we provide. And then once individuals come to us, they're actually able to receive the services and support that they need to accomplish whatever it is that they need to. So thank you.
AJ, I'm smiling because the thing you just said at the end there, these are just two of your programs. I think I'm always kind of flabbergasted about the kind of comprehensive model that Human IT is deploying, where it's not just about the device, like you said, but it's understanding both the pairing and the services of those options of devices, and then wrapping it around with also helping them to understand all of the benefit programs that are available to them, but keep going where it's all the ongoing support of not just digital navigation of understanding the programs or their needs, but also like ongoing support of different devices, ongoing support of new things that they're learning, which then changes their next kind of entry point into adopting more technology. And so I think it's really important to understand both that adoption and literacy, like you said, vary by the individual and what motivates the individual. So I love everything you said. I think one of the biggest things that I'm going to want to know going forward is how's Human IT providing all of this for free? Where is the funding coming from, and how can we replicate this right across the state?
Yeah, definitely. So we have quite a few different funding sources, ranging from CASIF funds from the CPUC. We participated in many grants there. We seek as a nonprofit support from foundations all across the country. And then with our ability to take in electronic waste, we actually drive a lot of revenue ourselves to make sure that we're sustainable should any philanthropic or funding like that slow down. We want to have the ability to be self-sufficient enough to be able to provide these services as well. So funding comes in quite a few different areas. And yeah, as far as replication wise, happy to, continue to work with people, whether it's replication or awareness and driving people towards things that already exist, and things like that. Partnership is huge in all of this. So happy to partner with any organization that wants to hear more.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. I look forward to having joined the conversation as we continue going along here. Next, I'd like to invite up Teresa Valenzuela, who's the Community Outreach Manager, and Irina Prohorova, who's the lead digital navigator at the San Diego Futures Foundation.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Teresa here, Teresa Valenzuela with San Diego Futures Foundation. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of what San Diego Futures Foundation does. And Arena is going to be giving you more specifically in regard to the topic of digital literacy itself. So I do have a PowerPoint to share with you. Just bear with me for one moment, please. We'll go from there and present. Get rid of that. There we go. So we're located in San Diego, California, and we've been in the business of bridging the digital divide since 1999, way before 2020. We're located in City Heights, one of the most, actually the most diverse neighborhood in San Diego County. And it also has quite a few nonprofits that are there. So today, again, my colleague Arena and I will be presenting to you in regard to what we do here at San Diego Futures Foundation. As an overview, we have corporate giving, and our main supporters are the County of San Diego, Peraton, and the City of San Diego, with a host of other individuals, including Sandag. So we have our hardware department, our tech hub department, and our education department. And in the hardware department alone, we also do e-waste as well, recycling. We've been able to keep 5 million pounds out of the landfill up to date. We've been able to donate computers. The computers that are donated to us, we refurbish them and then we distribute them, up to 5 free computers per nonprofit per year. And thus far, we've been able to provide up to 1,500 nonprofits computers. In fact, we have a lot of repeat offenders, if you will. They come back annually, just keep coming back, and they have built themselves just computer labs in order to help their clientele. Once a year, we have a signature annual event where we donate computers to foster families, and we've been able to donate up to 4,000 computers to foster families. In 2019, we incorporated transitioning youth as well with laptops. Down below, you'll see our board president, Kevin Morningstar, in regard to donating computers to to foster parents. And then up top is our tech hub, where we're able to, where we have our low-cost computer program and computer repair program. Our computers run from $100 to $300, very affordable. And we did have to put a price on it. And the reason being is a while back, before we started charging, we were getting calls from the pawn shops because people were giving up, going to the pawn shop and getting money back. So we had to put a price on that. As far as total computer distribution, they're at 60K. And then we have the education component. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and let Arena take over. So Arena, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes.
So our digital skill program, we offer this program in 9 locations throughout San Diego in English and Spanish, and we offer from internet safety to online banking and shopping and all about apps and typing skills. We offer it like 300 seniors served per year and 2,000 contact hours. Our digital navigator serve over 600 patrons in one-on-one sessions, and just it's in 1 year. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to celebrate an anniversary, first year of our pilot. So we offer one-on-one in 7 locations, basic tech support, and also enrollment to ACP and assistant in finding internet service providers. As far as for speaking for successes, we are financially accessible. So our classes are for free, and one-on-one sessions are also for free. And we offer desktops and laptops from $50 to $100. And often we actually waive the fee if the patrons cannot afford to pay. So our both digital literacy and digital navigation programs are in very popular demand. demand. We have many return customers. One of the also important part is that mobile hotspots offered by public libraries are favorite because there is no contract, no hidden fees. People love it. One thing I wanted to mention also, ACP 1-800 helpline, it works great when our patrons need help, when our navigators help people to enroll in ACP program. And if as you know, it's a multi-step multi-step
Process.
process, yes. So we often have to call 1-800 number, and it works great. Often people are able to, tell us the status of the application. So overall, community members are very feel empowered by their digital skills. Our seniors, our veterans, and disabled people, and they are not threatened by technology. We help also, in addition, access other cities and county resources. And we notice over the year that people advance from basic levels, many who return to self-paced programs and up to intermediate level, and they become self-sufficient. As far as for the barriers, of course, you've heard it today, it's lack of trust for internet service providers and government overall. They say, well, free internet, how does it work? Where are the hidden costs, and how much is this equipment? And does ACP has an expiration day, and there is no contract, like really. So other barriers, a lack of internet connection, no broadband. We have patrons in some areas that calling us that have only one internet service providers, and it's so expensive that they cannot, they live in small retired community, they cannot afford it. So also customers' inability to travel or commute. We offer 7 locations in the city of San Diego, but we have people who Google us, and they live in El Cajon, they live in San Marcos, and it's just too far for them to travel if they need one-on-one assistance. We do have a helpline. We can offer, like a steep enrollments over the phone as some basic questions, but sometimes people prefer to come one-on-one. And another barrier is, of course, finding our capacity building. We could do more outreach, we could do more services, we can train more people and expand, and there is a need for that. In terms of solution, so of course we need to offer more locations for digital navigations, for digital literacy skills. Also, one more important thing I've heard from my navigators is that create a standards for acceptable Wi-Fi speeds, and to do digital workshops for 5G and Wi-Fi frequency, to dispel the rumors about 5G and Wi-Fi, because we have patrons, especially older ones, they say that, it's harmful to your health, and you just hear various conspiracy theory. And just overall also about, help people to understand what is appropriate Wi-Fi speed for families. So another one is outreach. So community members are aware about that the services are offered, and continue building digital skills programs that people are not afraid of technology and don't feel isolated. So
that's that. And here's some of the classes that we offer. Our instructors are up top, being that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. It was last week, I think it was. But let me give you a gist of what we're talking about in the work that we do here in San Diego County, and it looks like this. So these are some of if you look at it this way, this is San Diego County, and these, the blue dots represent the nonprofits that we've been able to provide up to 5 free computers to. And because we've been able to do that, I can honestly say that we are able to reach up to 1 million people here in San Diego County in regard to bridging the digital divide and providing digital skills training. We also have digital literacy partner sites, the ones that are in orange and red. And so, as you can see, we've done quite a bit of work in bridging the digital divide. However, we are aware that there's still quite more to do. That's why we're here today. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, and what strikes me with what kind of you've been sharing is using San Diego Futures Foundation as the model. it's amazing that there's such a mature digital inclusion ecosystem. Like you've been around since 1999, right?
Yeah.
And I appreciate organizations like yours. We do about the work that, like I've said, shared. It's the heavy lifting is where you're doing the work, right? And so, thank you for sharing that map of organizations. That is also very impressive, and it shows the amount of work that we and all of us still have to be able to connect not just San Diego, but the rest of the state too. So outstanding work, really cool, and really appreciate both of your stories and sharing and the organization programs that you have.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And now I'm gonna invite Josh Leviton, who's the Director of Product and Engineering at Community Connect Labs. Josh?
Hi there. I am Josh Levitan. I work for Community Connect Labs. We're a nonprofit, and we do outreach and engagement exclusively for government and nonprofits to reach underserved and hard to reach populations. That's the people you typically think of, immigrants, foreign language speakers, poor, rural people, tribal members, etc. We have three main focus areas: medical insurance, particularly Medicaid, elections, and then broadband. We actually got one of our first big projects was doing the digital divide survey for San Jose to Hispanic populations. And we did that over SMS. And with that work, we were able to help the city get $40 million to expand broadband specifically to Spanish-speaking populations and help narrow the digital divide. Obviously, there's continued work that needs to be done there. I'm a big consumer experience advocate. And so as people have talked about, two of the main problems that we see are lack of awareness of different programs, and then the fact that ACP in particular is kind of a pain in the butt to apply for. I actually have a couple of slides here. Share my screen here. So this is a sort of map of the user journey. In case you're unfamiliar with this, there are multiple paths that you can get to signing up for ACP, but usually people are going to a web search. Eventually, you might get directed to the ACP site and apply online or fill out a paper form, or you can contact your internet company. You may or may not get approved immediately. You may need to be provided for additional follow-up. If you are approved, you may need eventually you have to go sign up for broadband from a provider. It's a multi-step process. It's kind of a pain. It made me really mad when I tried to do this myself. The next thing is, here is a sample user. We did a bunch of user research, so not just me getting mad trying to fill this out, but this is a time compressed thing of a 20-something college student who was on both Medicaid and formerly on food stamps. I am not coaching her. I'm just sort of talking to her while she's doing this. So you can see she's looking up broadband. She's getting referred to EBB, which is the old program. Eventually, she gets referred to the ACP site. She has to sign up and fill in all of this information about herself, create an account, password, put in her information, her language, fill out a CAPTCHA, sign into her account. Great. Now she's there. Now she starts an application. Now she checks her information. So she goes through the whole process and they can't immediately confirm her because she's not currently on benefits. And she winds up needing to provide pay stubs, and she doesn't currently have pay stubs to provide. So the end result of this process was, I'm just going to skip to the end here. She spent about 9 minutes and 28 seconds and gave up. And when asked what she would do there, she kind of said, I'd probably stop participating in the program because I don't know how to get the benefits. She does a lot of cash work and doesn't have W-2 income that she can use to provide. And this is someone who's got a computer and a phone and is tech savvy. So some of the things that we've been working on are at the top of the funnel. So outreach and follow-up, particularly over SMS, letting people know here's a program and here's what you can do to apply. We do a lot of work with chatbots. A lot of the people here have digital navigation, digital literacy programs. That's great, but there are oftentimes people who have questions that can be answered in different languages over SMS or web chat or other channels. what is this program? How do I apply? What do I need to do to sign eligibility? You don't necessarily need to talk to somebody for that. And so chatbots can help you walk through the process. The other thing, I'll share my screen one more time. We did a pre-screener. So the pre-screener is nice because this is styled after California, but if you factor in Lifeline, which California runs its own Lifeline program, complicating the matter even further. So if you're trying to get both cell phone coverage and broadband coverage, you have to apply in 2 different places. We made this combined screener. This is what the California Lifeline program looks like. And you can just plug in the people in your household. Are you receiving benefits or not? It's got this little step through on the left-hand side. It does your income, it does if you're in different programs, and it'll tell you if you likely qualify for either or both, and then direct you out to where you can go to apply. The other thing that you can do from there is either plug into a digital navigator if you have an in-person thing. We've also automated the form fill for the ACP program completely, so we can ask for a little bit more information from you and automatically, with your consent, create an account for you and apply for that program. And then the other thing that we do is those follow-ups. So, were you able to get the help that you need? Do you need to talk to someone? Do you need in-person help, or do you need to make an appointment to talk with the digital navigator? Were you able to sign up for broadband from a broadband provider? Do you need help or assistance there? All of those things are things that can help somebody actually, get signed up, and getting ACP and getting through the process is the first sort of step before you even get a computer or learn how to navigate the internet and have those digital skills. So those are things that we're working on and that we think can make things easier for folks.
Thank you, Josh, for sharing. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that as we start talking about digital equity and adoption and literacy, that both we can also look internally on how to make forms and applications and programs that are related to broadband and digital equity also accessible, and a process that anyone and everyone can use. And I think another thing that I'd really like to acknowledge is that while broadband for all and the ideas that we're sharing here are kind of about ubiquitous broadband and making sure that everyone is connected, it's really important to acknowledge that SMS or outreach through mobile, because of its ubiquitous nature of everyone having a mobile device, as a great way to share information, great way to do outreach, and like you share, a great way to get surveys and responses to digital equity surveys. So very appreciative of all the things that you shared.
And I will say one thing that we found encouraging. We were talking to the FCC about this, and they're actually working with the U.S. Digital Services on revamping the ACP form because they're aware that it's not the easiest form to use, and they've been doing some user research and are trying to make that better. So one of the things they're working on is making it where you don't necessarily have to register for an account to find out in advance whether you're eligible or not, which is great to hear.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And now I'm going to pass it over to Deputy Director Adams of the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy. Scott?
Yeah, cool. Just thank you very much. And hi, everyone. I'm Scott Adams, Deputy Director of the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy. Want to thank our panelists and thank all of you who continue to be a part of this working group and this sort of community of practice that's helping to inform the digital equity plan. And as just think it's so relevant for all of us as we're putting the plan together, that, as I think one of the posters said in the chat, that there's still a number of California residents, hundreds of thousands, where access and infrastructure and service are barriers, and those are very real situation that the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative and the CPUC's many last mile programs, and then upcoming the BEAD program and funding can help address. And but really looking at the very complex and multi-dimensional challenge of broadband adoption and digital literacy and digital inclusion, and how it's really all of these multiple factors of overcoming relevance, overcoming, cost of service and devices, and even the mistrust of government and corporations who are, the key players in this system, that it's really important to have trusted messengers that are in the community, in the regions of those communities, and able to, overcome the language barriers and trust barriers. So just think it's so, as Cole said, we're so grateful that here in California we have a very mature ecosystem that's been doing this work for a long time, that includes, a lot of the state agencies like the Department of Aging and the state library system, and then the statewide nonprofits, the regional nonprofits, the housing providers. Chris, thank you so much for sharing work you're doing, and really, this is a good setup for the community, conversation that's coming up next, which is, how do we continue to leverage the best of what everyone is doing, and continue to kind of increase the coordination and collaboration, and the efficiency, and to the extent possible, avoid some of the duplication on, what are the things we don't have to recreate, and free up as much of the digital equity capacity dollars to actually do the heavy lifting, which is the training of the trainers, the multiplying the digital navigators, which are going to be so critical to solving this. So just, from my perspective, I wanted to say thank you all for the work that you do, and for sharing in such detail in such a short time. One note I would say about Josh's presentation on the ACP, obviously the ACP is a very useful tool to overcome, the barriers associated with service. And I think, we've heard you all have continued to say that while it's useful, it's an imperfect tool to increase adoption. And I think that suggestions from this working group on how we can continue to recommend that, as long as it is in place, how we can improve the enrollment process would make it a lot better. So Josh, I always love seeing that time-lapse video that you show. It's so demonstrative, and I know there was a lot of folks in the chat that echoed that sentiment. So Cole, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And like you said, I wanted to appreciate and thank all of our panelists, and excited to now open it up to a more of a community conversation, and really make this a bi-directional conversation. And let's pull the slides back up. Next slide. And so here's where we want to have a conversation on these 3 prompts. And while they are in step 1, 2, and 3, would love to open it up in terms of, if one of these questions really strikes you, love for you to share. You can share in the chat, but also if you want to now go to the reactions and raise your hand, this is the time to have that community conversation and join into the conversation. Scott, do you want to have anything to add as we get those through the questions read and start hands raising?
I don't think so, Cole. I mean, the way we've tried to shape these working group meeting is to just, pull a sample panel together and have folks talk about what they're doing. As we said, we know that there's a lot of other folks in the space, and are here, they're doing the work. We'd love to, hear about what other folks are doing that are on the call, what the, potential gaps or needs are, understanding that, once the state digital equity plans develop, there are going to be capacity grant dollars that, will go to support efforts, and there's going to be the competitive grant dollars too. So, we just would like to hear from more people about what you're doing. You know, the NTIA is requiring us to put together a comprehensive, you know, inventory of assets, like, you know, organizations, programs, you know, funding that's being leveraged as part of the digital equity plan. So that'll be really helpful. And then I think that just the, you know, the key question at the end is what is missing, and what could be addressed by the digital equity plan and capacity dollars. And then lastly, I would say don't be constrained by these questions. I mean, this is an open forum. We're all members of this group. If there are things that we're missing, please let us know.
Thank you, Scott. It looks like we have our first hand up. So Carla, you can unmute. Carla?
Great. Hi, everybody. Hi, Scott. Good to see you again. Yeah, a couple of things that I'd like to point out. One thing that's worked really well for us in doing a lot of tech support pop-ups and ACP signups for older adults and adults with disabilities, as well as the broader community, is gift cards or some sort of stipend for volunteers. We are able to consistently recruit high quality volunteers, and we offer, you know, a decent sized gift card or stipend every time. And people mention over and over again that that makes a difference. And especially when we're looking at peers, for somebody to get on a bus, go across the city, that sort of thing, it kind of says, you know what you do is valuable and it makes a difference. The second thing that has really worked at these is providing refreshments, snacks. A lot of times there's a lot of waiting and standing in line. So we provide seating areas or try to find venues. And for older adults and adults with disabilities, social isolation and loneliness, and especially in San Francisco, we have a huge population of older adults living alone. These are also connection events, not just you know, the digital connection, but human connection. And they're able to share peer tips with each other as they're waiting for, you know, their one-on-one consultation. And so those kinds of things are really, really important and have worked super well for us. In terms of what's missing, my colleague Andrew Broderick and I have just finished conducting about 50 stakeholder interviews across the city of San Francisco. And what we have heard every single time: staffing, 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 and especially in language. And what no one has the funding to do is hire full time with, you know, folks that can do this at reasonable and competitive wages. And one of the ideas that we've been thinking about is that we haven't seen is sort of a community core of digital navigators, not just every organization having their own, but kind of like a centralized location where we could send people out to different organizations as they need them, as opposed to everybody handling staffing, everybody handling recruiting, everybody handling all those kinds of things. We haven't seen that model, but we think it could work. So that's our 2 cents for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining and sharing, Carla. I think those are some great points that you shared, and glad to see that you're not only asking questions, but also responding to those questions.
Yeah, cool. And I would
Oh,
just
go
want to
ahead, Scott.
say, thanks again, Carla, because you know, definitely capacity is a reoccurring theme, and it's something that I think Cammie touched on, that, you know, most folks have been, you know, working on. I don't know if shoestring budget, but relatively small budgets up until then. But now that there's all this COVID response dollars, there's more ability to try to, you know, increase capacity, and then you know, definitely understand the importance again of the both language and cultural competency, given that many of the folks most impacted by the digital divide and who are currently unconnected, you know, do have very specific constraints, not just around language, but you know, other things related to language as well. Particularly, I know it showed up at the last meeting we had, that, you know, we can print materials in language, but if some of the folks that we're looking to connect have low levels of literacy within their own language, that there need to be other means of communicating through, television or radio or word of mouth, that kind of peer-to-peer, neighbor-to-neighbor approach.
Thank you, Scott. And now, Crystal, you can unmute. Crystal?
Hi, thank you. Forgive the lack of camera. So I'm at California State University, Dominguez Hills, and I just wanted to add to what Carla was saying about this element of staffing and training. And so one model that we're using here at California's at our institution at CSUDH is to have our institution act as that intermediary for community-based organizations. Now, of course, we are doing this with the support of NTIA and the CMC grant, so thank you. But that is one way that some of our, right, in the state of California, of course, the CSUs are up and down. That could be a place where we could gather for these small, in particular for these small businesses and community-based organizations. We are their trusted partner in many cases. So I just wanted to offer that as a second and in support of what Carla was saying.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you for your comments. And next, Linda. Linda?
Hi, Scott and Cole. This is Linda Thomas from Cal.net. And Scott, thank you for asking about other folks doing the work in this area as well. So Cal.net has CAF2 funding for fixed wireless and NTIA funding for fiber, where we do last mile infrastructure. But as a Microsoft Airband partner, we bring with us other Microsoft partners, and that is the rural LISC, who does all of our digital ACP training, digital literacy, and digital fluency training. So we have multiple programs going on in rural California between Bakersfield and Redding, where we're offering free training, and also Microsoft devices that are professionally refurbished by Microsoft for $10. And I just wanted to put that out there. And if anyone is interested in talking to me about that, we're mostly in the Valley, and I'm excited to be working in this area.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, hey, and Cole, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave a little bit early for another appointment, but I wanted to thank Linda for her comment. And I know that the discussion session is going, but Linda, in response to yours and some of what other folks have been saying, we really want to be as inclusive as possible in terms of mapping the work of all entities that are doing important work here. And so I just want to make a plug for, there's going to be a section later on. I believe Miley Martinez from Broadband Equity Partnership is going to go through it. We have established both a digital equity ecosystem mapping tool for government entities, local tribal jurisdictions, community-based organizations, schools, and libraries to fill out and kind of map their work. So that's included in the asset inventory for the digital equity plan. And we've also created a specific digital equity ecosystem mapping tool for ISPs. And, Miley's gonna talk a little bit about that. And she's also gonna plug that we will be going live with our digital equity survey, which is both online and mobile friendly. And it's going to be kind of a call to action. Would hope all of you would help promote that out, through your networks and to your residents, clients, customers, et cetera, to help get a real comprehensive view of the digital equity barriers for the residents themselves throughout California. So just thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. We do have 2 more comments, and then we can move to the next. But for now, George, can you unmute? There you go. Uh-oh, George, we can't hear you. No, it might be disconnected. Give me one more moment, and then we can also come back. Oh, I can hear you, George.
Okay, sorry about that. The hookup works usually. I just want to piggyback on what Linda from CalNet said. I encourage people, based on some things we've seen around the country, actually, of really getting involved with the ISP or managed service provider that you'll be working with your populations. Each of them have little different systems, particularly in how they manage the Wi-Fi connections, which are essential. But they also have a lot of data in terms of what types of devices are present, what types of applications are being used. Is the service being used at all? What kind of bandwidth demands there are? And as we follow up on these processes, it's important, I think, for digital navigators to understand these things, work very closely with the ISPs, making sure that not just the community, but people as a whole are, getting their needs addressed. It's one thing to hook them up, to the internet, and the other thing for them to actually use it. You can get a lot of head nodding in the process of training them, but it's really important, I think, to understand if all of this money and all of this time is really being put to use, and it could be just a few minutes of time that an individual needs to leverage that. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your comment. Alex,
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
we can. Go ahead.
I'm just there's a term I just want to bring into everyone's vocabulary. WCAG 2.2. Just everyone memorize this when you're thinking of anything about this. I just haven't heard it. And tomorrow's a Global Accessibility Awareness Day. But we have to make sure our digital environments are accessible to everybody. And the WCAG 2.2 is like the minimum standard. And that's the new version that's going to come out. So if you're in the government, it's probably going to impact Title II, but everyone should be talking about WCAG 2.2 in anything. It relates to authentication, the documents we create, the web spaces we create, everything has a WCAG 2.2 component. So I just want to say it over and over so everyone talks about it. So again, WCAG 2.2. Thank you.
Hey, Alex, one suggestion is, let's see, on Thursday, so tomorrow, there's an outcome area working group called Essential Services, Accessibility, and Civic Engagement. I would encourage you to join that meeting as well and say that WCAG 2.2 multiple times on that one, because that's a group of web-based talking about how digital equity on online essential services. So thank you for sharing, and thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
And I don't want to stop any more conversations. If there's any additional hands raised or anyone interested in sharing any more information, any comments, any programs that are missing, any successes, I'm going to go ahead and give it just a couple more moments to really decide to raise your hand. And I also would acknowledge and share that there is a lot of good conversation going on in the chat. So if you haven't opened up the chat yet, definitely take a moment to preview and see what's going on there. Okay, with that, I really appreciate everyone's comments, all those that did share, and all those that are joining the conversation in chat, and those that are participating. We're next going to move on to the Broadband Equity Partnership, and they're going to share some information about a public survey and the digital equity ecosystem mapping tool.
Thanks, Cole. Hi, everyone. I'm Miley Martinez from the Broadband Equity Partnership. Really great to be here, and have really appreciated the conversation and everything that's been shared, both on the call and in the chat so far. As Scott teed up for me, I'm here to talk to you about a couple of tools we have to literally map and catalog all the amazing work that's happening across the state when it comes to digital equity, and also identifying gaps. So I'm going to talk to you about two distinct tools. The first is called the Digital Equity Ecosystem Mapping Tool, or DEEM, D-E-E-M. This tool is live now, so you can access it right this moment via the QR code that you see on your screen, or a short link that is on the screen as well, and we will also put in the chat. The audience for the DEEM is organizations, agencies, school districts, library systems, tribes, organizations and entities that can speak about the digital equity work that they are conducting, and the digital equity work that they could be conducting. So it helps to identify the programs that are currently being offered, where and to whom. And that will also help to identify what's missing in each region. So just in the course of this call, I've heard from so many folks that I'm like, oh, I really hope that you will fill out the DEEM tool, because we really want to capture the work that you're already doing. It only takes about 10 minutes, and this tool is available in Spanish and English. So I really hope that folks on this call will take a few minutes to fill it out, and we'll do a demonstration in just a moment about how that can be done. So next slide, please. This is showing we're tracking our progress and getting feedback via this tool. So far, we've had 163 total responses. So there's so much more that we could capture with this tool. The map that you see on your screen is a heat map showing all the counties in the state of California, where the dark green counties are those where we have had 11 or more respondents. And the red and orange counties are those where we've had 0 or 1 respondent. So you can see in the northeast corner of the state, and many other regions on top of that, we have a lot of opportunity to get a lot more feedback and to really capture this great work that is happening to drive digital equity. Next slide, please. So the call to action here is to please just take a few moments to complete the tool. And then once you've done that, please share it with your network. So if I'm sure you're well aware of, there have been many partner organizations mentioned on this call, many of which are not here with us today. So if you could please help spread the word and ask them to also take just 10 minutes to fill out the tool. It will be really helpful. It will help us to catalog and capture all the amazing work that's happening across the state. As I mentioned, the tool is in Spanish and English, and we also have a toolkit that you can tap into to help just make it easy for you to send an email or a message to a partner organization to encourage them to fill out the tool. And then the final link that you can see on this slide is the DEEM for ISPs that Scott mentioned. So Linda, I think you're probably well aware of this. Hopefully you've already filled it out, but we could also use help getting the word out to internet service providers to encourage them to fill out this tool as well, because we know ISPs are also driving this work in unique ways. Next slide, please. We also have a public survey. So the tool that I was just talking about, the DEEM, the audience for that, like I mentioned, is organizations and agencies. We have a separate tool, the Digital Equity Online Survey, and the audience for that is households. So individuals, heads of household, anybody who uses the internet or not, and that we're trying to find out why across the state. This tool is not live yet, but it's going live tomorrow, Thursday, May 18th. So we're giving you a little preview today. It's mobile friendly. It's available in 14 languages with built-in audio functionality. So in each of those 14 languages, there are audio recordings of every single question on the tool to accommodate communities with limited English as well as limited literacy in any of those 14 languages. And it helps to capture information about internet access, affordability, and adoption for residents of California households. And this will be open, like I said, to any member of the public who can take a few minutes to fill it out. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. I think from here we'll go into a quick demo of the tools. So we'll start with the DEEM tool. All right, so again, the Digital Equity Ecosystem Map, or the DEEM tool, is the tool that is for organizations and agencies to share their work to drive digital equity across the state. It takes just about 10 minutes. And if you scroll up to the upper right here, you can see that it's available in English and Spanish, so you can easily change the language of the tool. If you go into the tool itself, you'll see that there's some basic information that you can provide right off the top. And we're really asking folks to just take a few minutes. The first page has the most crucial information that we're looking for. So even if you don't have a full 10 minutes to fill out the survey, just taking a few minutes to provide this basic information will help you be cataloged and included in our asset inventory for our digital equity plan. And again, the call to action here is for folks on this call representing organizations and agencies to please take just a few minutes to fill this out and then spread the word. Now I'd like to show you the public survey. The public survey, again, this is a different audience. This is for any individual across the state to share their experience accessing and utilizing broadband and technology. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see if you click on that English button, there's a drop down where you can see it's available in 14 languages. This is mobile friendly, and there are audio recordings in each of these languages. So if you click on the play button, once you've chosen a language, we will hear a read aloud of the instructions or the question to support users with low vision or limited literacy in whichever language they've selected. So this tool is actually going live tomorrow. And so this is a call to action to ask each of you to fill it out and then also to help spread the word and get it out to your constituents, your students, your residents, and the communities where you work, so we can really capture their experience with broadband and technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miley. And back to the slides. Thank you for sharing about the Digital Equity Survey and the ways that those interested can both share more about their organization and the programs they'd love to share the successes of, and then share within the state digital equity plan, but then also how we can get all residents and all California households to share more information. And so both with a call to action for your organizations or your agency to share information through the digital equity ecosystem mapping tool, and share the digital equity survey starting tomorrow through your networks. And we will share both links and more information through follow-up emails. Next slide. We'll wrap up here with a couple more ways that you continue to stay involved. The outcome area working group meetings, the next ones will be through the month of June. We do have 2 more in the next 2 days, the workforce and economic development for tomorrow, and essential services, accessibility, and civic engagement. And in July and October, additionally, we'll have the state digital planning group meetings, and these are all virtual events. Next slide. Additionally, we still have more regional events. We've been through about 9 or 10 from all the way up in Eureka to all the way down in San Diego and in between. I'm really excited to continue to join these events and actually meet you in person and hear some more really great, impactful stories. I've been to quite a few of these and they are very exceptional. It's very fun to see you and hear more. So please join us at an in-person digital equity event. Next slide. And just say it one more time. These are the ways to get involved and how to take action in the call to actions we are requesting, which is to complete the digital equity ecosystem mapping tool as an organizational or agency level, share and complete the digital equity survey starting tomorrow with yourself, your family, your friends, your networks, participate in the virtual outcome area working group meetings or the statewide planning group meetings, and attend a planning workshop in your region. And all of this information will be shared with you in an email. You can find the links in the chat. And additionally, the Broadband for All portal will have all of the relevant links. Next slide. With that, here's some contact information. And again, truly appreciate your partnership, truly appreciate your participation, your sharing of your programs, your stories, and really look forward to your continued advocacy and partnership in the statewide digital equity planning process. Thank you again.